Welcome back to this updated version of our March 2020 Utah Lake Curvature experiment. In this video, we will go over a few basic concepts regarding inferior mirages and atmospheric lensing, as well as share our own laser experiment test results. But first, before we get to that, let's establish something in heliocentrism, the globe model. A fundamental fact, which is that all water is curved on the globe model. It has to, because it has to do 360 degrees back around to itself. It has to create a sphere, and it has to be water still. So all water must be curved. As you can see, when you ask Google, does water curve? They'll tell you right here. The surface of all water is curved. Even a small lake surface follows the curvature of the Earth. So what is the curvature of the Earth? Or what I should say is, what is the mainstream supposed curvature of the Earth? What is the curvature that they tell us? Well, we can see here, it says that Earth has a radius of approximately 4,000 miles. So using the Pythagorean theorem, we can see that the average curvature is about 8 inches per mile squared. What a lot of people don't realize is that this is a geometric object. We can measure and test it at 25,000 miles around, or 4,000 mile radius. This is testable. And we can be extremely accurate within 500 miles. So we went out and tested it. Now, before we show you the clear results of that test, let's briefly look at a couple examples of what many are mistaking for Earth curvature. Because the fact of the matter is, what I in the past and what many people are now calling curvature is 99% of the time one of two things. And by far the most commonly used example of curvature being observed is the inferior mirage combined with ships going over the horizon on the ocean. During this next section, feel free to pause the video if you want to analyze the information or pictures more thoroughly. Now, without a camera like the Nikon P1000, the naked eye, after being told the same indoctrinating information year after year, can be convinced it's seeing curve. Now we have the technology to zoom in close and we can see what's actually happening. As the boat moves away from us, it does not get obscured by Earth curvature, but rather by what we call the mirror line, or simply put, it's an atmospheric layer over the water. And friends, now that we have the technology to look closely, we can see that as the boat goes away, using the distance from the yellow stripe to the top of the boat as a reference, the boat is always 3.5 top boat sections above the water horizon, no matter how far it goes. Now this is important. They do not go over and downward behind a curve like it should on a curved sphere. That's because what we are actually observing is the boat's perspective diminishing into a distorting and refracting layer of atmosphere. Now, without the tools like the P1000, this concept would continue to be debated, but now we can see the truth. Again, friends, this is testable. And what I'm telling you is that an object on a flat plane getting obscured by atmospheric conditions is what's happening. We are not seeing an object on a curved surface being magically lifted up above the physical horizon. Now, we could talk about other topics like ocean swell and tides when it comes to long-distance viewing over the ocean. But for now, I'd like to talk to you about the second atmospheric condition that many people mistake for Earth curve, and this is called atmospheric lensing. Conditions for atmospheric lensing are common, but not quite as common as for the inferior mirage. Like the inferior mirage, the basics of the lensing effect is easy to understand. When conditions are right, the atmosphere, the moisture, and the gases will actually magnify distant objects. This lensing effect, like we just saw in the example, can cut off the bottom of distant objects. This is all observable, testable, and repeatable, and I encourage people to go and do it for themselves. Get the tools like a P1000, go out and test it. Alright, it's time to see the results from our test. Our day of experimentation was a great day. It was pretty uniform in temperature, it was windy, it had an overcast, so the wind helped blow away the atmospheric layers. The overcast helped keep the temperature not too drastically different between layers. It was a great day. These are the kind of conditions you want. Now, you can come across very still, clear conditions at times, but I have found that breezy days tend to be the best because they help blow away those atmospheric layers. So again, our test site was Utah Lake just outside of Salt Lake City, and it was 13.7 miles between testing points. At this distance, the curvature would be 125 feet at ground level. That will change as your eye height goes up or down, but we'll calculate that again later. My dad, who I'd like to personally thank for being an awesome support during these endeavors, was positioned on the south side of the lake and was armed with a high-powered flashlight and laser. Here's a quick visual of his location.
Set up for you. Flashlight.
The light source height was approximately 5.5 feet high. Alright, for my location on the lake, I was on the north side of Utah Lake. Right up here where the arrow's pointing is where I was, and here is a quick video documenting my location. As you can see, I'm over the lake here. The camera's about 4.5, 4 3/4 foot high. And here I'd actually already found my dad's flashlight, which was already enough to prove we live on a flat plane. A flashlight seen 13.7 miles away, a few feet over the water. This is the point common sense, basic logic, geometry, and the Bible begin to align the way they were always intended to. But we didn't end with the flashlight. We knew it was time for the laser.
Might have to mount it on the tripod.
You hit me, Dad. Yeah. You are looking directly down a beam of light to the source of that laser. That is a hot hit, direct hit, 13.7 miles away, directly into my camera lens. You're gonna oh, there it is, you hit me, you hit me, right, you hit the camera. So after getting the laser zeroed in, we continued recording with multiple devices and we did sync tests, just for extra verification.
Okay, videoing again with the green laser now. Alright, cover it up.
Covered.
Uncover. There it is.
13 miles.
13 miles, man.
Beautiful laser shot.
Cool.
Beautiful. Alright, cool. That is that. Alright.
Now this experiment, it empirically shows that the alleged globe model is false, based on its own claims of curve calculations. But I decided to drive the nail into the globe coffin just a little bit more, a little deeper, by lowering my camera while recording the laser. This effectively would raise my horizon if I were on a globe. So let's watch basic geometry destroy the globe even more as I lower my camera to the water.
Almost got me.
Alright, final shot and final calculations. I lowered my camera down to about 9 inches over the water on this shot. It was under a foot, it was so close the waves were basically licking my camera. And the results give us the answer. We are not on a sphere. Now there's something in these calculations I wanted to point out. Notice it says that my horizon is only 1 mile away. That means my horizon would be right about here. About 1 mile in front of me. That would mean that about 1 mile in front of me is the point, the tangent point, in which it starts to block any object behind it. The further it goes behind my tangent point, the more it's blocked. Please let the simple logic of what that means sink in. What it means is that this picture we're looking at right now is not possible if we live on a globe. Both basic geometry and common sense tells us this is only possible on a flat plane. And guess what? Those inferior mirages? 100% possible and testable on a flat plane. And atmospheric lensing? 100% possible and testable on a flat plane. And there are examples everywhere, like the black swan, which is only possible on a flat plane. and things like Milwaukee lights being visible from Lake Michigan 80 miles away. This is indisputable, flat plane proof. And please do not listen to the Freemasons dangling around in front of green screens at NASA studios. The evidence for their fraud is abundant, and honestly, it blows my mind that they are still using cheap movie tricks to propagate a place called space. A mysterious place in which they promise to take us for 70 years now, but never deliver. Remember, the truth does not fear investigation. Do not let your friends, or your culture, or your TVs distract you from the truth, because they will try. Keep focused, stay calm, and carry on.
Hope is dead.
Thank you for watching this level-headed production.